And Scott, as we said after Barnet, performances like that against less efficient teams than the league leaders will gain results in 2015.
Well, that's the plan. We've said it all along all season that we need to be consistent with our performances, and the last 3 games we've played pretty well. Only picked up 3 points. Obviously 2 of the games against the league leaders and runaway league leaders, but it shows that when we play to the levels that we know we can do, we can compete with the better teams, but we haven't done it well enough and often enough, and ultimately we haven't scored enough goals, and that's been the issue, and that's something that we need to address for the second half of the season, and obviously looking towards next season as well.
And now from the top of the table to the bottom, but Telford will be looking for a response under their new manager Steve Kittrick.
Yeah, it's always tough against the bottom sides. We've seen that last year. We went to Hyde, and they were desperate for points and made life very difficult for us and the other teams that were down the bottom. And no game is easy in this division. And it's, like I said, it's about performances, about consistency of performances, and making sure that everyone does the right thing on a regular basis. And we're ruthless and clinical when we get in the final third, because we're creating enough chances. We're just not finishing them off, and it puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the team to defend. But we've got to contribute from all areas, set plays and midfield players. We've got to chip in with goals as well. And last year we had Mark Molesey and Jordan Roberts, scoring 19 goals each, and this year we haven't had that. And so we've got to get everybody involved in the game. We've got everyone creating chances, but we've got to believe that they're going to score when they get in the box. And
I suppose the cliche is that you'd be more worried if the team weren't creating chances, because there's enough quality finishes in this team to know that eventually that cutting edge will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've created something like 50 chances in the last four games, I think it is. And that's a lot of chances, but we haven't scored the goals. But you've got to keep creating those chances, but you've got to keep getting in the right areas as well. We've got to get between the posts. Charlie's goal against us on New Year's Day is typical of a poacher and someone who's in the right place at the right time. But he's in the right place most of the time, and that's why he scores goals. And I spoke to several of their players afterwards, and they were impressed with both games we played against them. And I asked them, what the difference was they felt this season with their team as compared to the others, and they said the front two. The rest of them do their jobs and are solid, but the front two, cause a lot of problems. They work very, very hard. They work closely together, and they've chipped in with a lot of goals. And obviously that's something that we've lacked.
And now on Sunday, a strong start obviously is always vital, but patience as well. Telford would presumably come here happy with a point. So there's got to be the patience to break down their defence. Yeah,
and that's been difficult. We don't have any ball boys here, which is a major issue to me. We've spoken to the directors about it and try and get something done, but we haven't been out to get ball boys, and that's ridiculous. It's a wide area. The ball goes off. We saw it against Barnet. As soon as the team goes 1-0 up or wants to come here and frustrate you, it takes ages for the ball to be in play, and it doesn't. The ball isn't actually in play for much of the game, and it frustrates. It allows teams to get back in. We can't play at the tempo they want to. That's been a problem. But we haven't. Again, not making excuses. We haven't broken down teams well enough. We haven't been clever enough to do that, or put teams under enough pressure for long enough. And that's something that we've made a point of, and we want to keep working on.
And further forward, what are your hopes for 2015?
Well, we need to improve. We haven't done well enough last year. The first half of the season hasn't been good enough. We have been restricted by the cup run and injuries. Two things, and it's a really strong schedule at the beginning of the season, and we haven't coped with it well enough. We've struggled with the players that we've had and coping with the amount of games that we have. So that's something that we've got to learn from for next year, and that's already in place. That we're looking to make sure that we are going to be stronger for the first half of the season, because that puts you in a really good strong position. But for the second half of the season, we need to improve. We need to get more consistency in our performances, and for players to stake a claim for their to get a contract for next year, because we need to be pushing into the top 10, and we need to be in the top 10 looking to be pushing towards the playoffs next season. And it's a fine line between where we are now and where the top 10 is, but we've got to recruit better. We've got to make sure that the training schedule is strong enough to be able to do that in pre-season to make sure it gets through, and we've got to have players capable of doing that and getting on with the job in hand.
And you say injuries, we'd rather still be involved in the FA Trophy and have a game next weekend, but is that free weekend something of a blessing in disguise?
Well, it is. We've got a few that are, futures are up in the air in terms of their loans. We're still dealing with that. We're hopeful that we can keep, Dan Holman especially. We're hopeful that will go through. We're still speaking to Brentford about Manny, but there's others that will leave, and there's also others that have not featured as much as they would have liked in the first team. And clearly we're not going to be able to bring players in unless we move others on and move the squad around a little bit. So that's something that's going to continue for the next week or two. But not having a game means that people like Josh Scott and Damon Lathrop can still do more rehab, and Molesey see if they can get closer to return. And the lads that have been playing with Knox and the ones that played all the games over the Christmas period can have a bit of a rest, and we can reevaluate the squad and look at where we need to strengthen and where we need to improve to help us out.
And in that, with moving players around, getting a couple out to be able to get in, is that delicate balance, and one little change can affect the whole chain. Of your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've not got many defenders. Tonks has been out injured most of the season. We've had the four defenders. Jaden, Wills, Joe Osler and Barks have played most of the games there. Obviously Jordan's filled in, but we haven't got any defensive cover there. If Manny goes back, obviously Damo being injured, we've only got Forbesy and Sam Hatton. Forbesy's loans up on the 31st of January. If Jordan playing left back, we haven't got a natural wide left. Having said that, we've got quite a few centre forwards. Obviously Josh has been injured, but we've got centre forwards that we haven't been scoring goals. So there's lots of areas that we need to strengthen on, but obviously that depends on whether we can move people out, and then we have to see what the priority is given who's coming back from fitness and who's available, because it's a time of year when there's a few players available, but whether they fit into the wage structure and what we can do is another matter. But
you mentioned it already, that potential good news of Dan Holman's extension would be a huge boost for the club.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't scored as many goals as he would have liked, but his work rate and his link-up play and obviously he's added us another dimension to what we've done and give us a little bit of a spark, and I think that certainly a few days rest for him will help him out as well, because he's played a lot of football after not having played so much, and there's clearly that would be a big boost, because he's fantastic in the change room. He's a really good lad. He works ever so hard. He's desperate to do well, and they're the type of players that we want at the club. But we can't saturate one area of the team. We need to spread it out more evenly. Joe Gesson's gone back to Stevenage now. He hasn't really featured too much. He's had a couple of injuries, and so he's gone back. Obviously Mark Phillips would go back with his injury that he's had as well. And so really it's Manny and Dan Holman, the two that we've got to look at. But equally we've got to look at the squad and how that's affected with what we've got financially. So it's tricky. It is a balancing act. You're juggling balls and you're trying to find out. You'd like to be able to bring in 3 or 4, but realistically we can probably be only bringing 1 unless we can move people around, and that's where we are. And that's a lot of clubs at our level are very similar in that situation. So but certainly looking forward, we're looking at more games now. We're getting more games watched. We've got someone going to watch games for us now, which the board have allowed us to do in preparation for next year, because we need to get the players in that I want, not the players that we can get, and that's that's been a little bit of a problem, as well as the transition from going from full time to part time, There's been a few players that have sort of in between in the terms of their contracts. So by the time we start next season, everything will be a little bit more clearer in where we are budget wise and length of contract and where everyone else stands. So it's a case of sort of looking forward to next year already, knowing that we can do things better and have a plan in place to do that, and knowing that our recruitment is going to be a lot better and that we can have a structure to what we're doing rather than just sort of doing it off the cuff, which is really what happened due to the fact that we didn't know what division we were in and the budget changes and the full-time status going to part-time. So it was a little bit up in the air in the summer, but certainly this year that's something that I'm desperate not to happen, and we're going to be preparing from now, ready in preparation for next year, because we need a strong start.